so I got the overhead console wiring done, and I just got to run one wire over to the VSS, which is down in that panel, and then the other wire out to the firewall for the sensor. These, depending on which year you get from a Blazer, Jimmy, or Astro, the pinouts or the wire colors are different, but the pinout is the same. So just gonna go over. So they wrote it down. Pin 5 is 12 volt switch accessory, pin 6 is ground, pin 7 is VSS, pin 8 is the air temp sensor or ambient temp sensor signal, pin 9 is dimmer, and pin 10 is parking light trigger. So that's all you need. Aside from that, up top, the small harness for the map lights, I have it wired up for 12 volt to the orange for the map lights, so always have power, so you can press a button. And then the yellow wire is a dome light trigger with the rest of the door pins, so they open up, or it turns on the dome light when you open the door. And then the other two are ground, so ground for each set of lights. So very simple to do that. Once this is in, hopefully the VSS will help with calibrating the compass. So if it doesn't, I really don't care. It'd be nice, but yeah, let's get that all mounted up. Welcome to the rest of the nightmare. So I'll show you guys just how bad this is. But you'll see right all here and here is right through the firewall. Clean break. So new floor, firewall up, bad, very bad. So this leads to more problems than I can fix without really taking motor and transmission or motor out and fixing the firewall. But for now, I'm gonna see if I can try to pull some of this back at least, and I'll see if I can get a bracket to just kind of weld this more in place temporarily. And we'll have to deal with fixing more of this with the engine out to have good access to the firewall from the engine compartment side and deal with that. But yeah, that is this is common on F-bodies to have a crack start here with a 5-speed or 6-speed as they age. So I wasn't surprised about that, but I was surprised that this is how bad the firewall is on this car. So I mean, it makes sense because the floors were pretty bad at 1.2. So let's try to come up with some sort of temporary solution so at least I can get into gear easier in the meantime. I do have another motor that we will build later on, and that will be replacing my LQ4. So that will be the prime time to kind of go over that part for now. But other than that, wiring wise, everything is done. I have to add in one relay for the factory tack to work. I'll pull up a resistor and relay, and then the new alarm should be here tomorrow. Everything for the center console is wired up and good to go. I can put the headliner back in, sealed up the windshield area because it's starting to have some slight leaks, and then we can put this all back together. Alright, it's been a long battle with this. It's like one thing after the next, but dash is in, headliner is in, center console is in, wired. Bulbs out on that side, but we power up. We got working compass, just gotta hook up the temp sensor, and yeah, that's down on there. Put the mirror back on, dash pad back in, cluster back in, then I can test the other buttons, and lights work, which is good. And
and right now I'm working on putting in the new alarm system. So I won't really show much in terms of where I'm going to put this, but I will say when you're doing something like this, I am going to use a lot of features on this that most people won't do. So I do have a window module inside the center console for express up and down. This also allows me to control the windows with the alarm or remote starter, so I'm going to hook that up as well. Also hooking up a output to turn the radio on by remote as well, so I got that. Trunk release hooked up. I'm going to put a hood pin back in this as well, and from there everything, I'm going to pull down the main harness from the column, clean that all up, tie in the alarm, and then put everything back together. On the other side, center console, or sorry, HVAC system's all cleaned up, just pushed out of the way. Excuse me as I got allergies, but dash and passenger side, I just got to zip tie the main harness back to the original spot, so I just have everything kind of loose as I was trying to make sure everything was working, and I'll button that all up when I put the whole thing back together. Dash is pretty much back together. Cleaned up all the harness down here. I'm gonna now tuck it up. Alarm is installed and working. That's good. All the door triggers work. I took some time to wire up some LEDs just because the 194 bulbs, they get hot, they like to burn shit, so got rid of that. And now I'm just trying to make sure I have room to tuck up the time box, I believe this is, because it bolts up under here and it takes up a lot of space, but it should be good. And then I can run the OBD2 and bolt it onto where it's supposed to go. I should have room for the cables not to bind up now for the vents. And then I can put the under dash panel back on and then work on the center and test fit that. So it's going well, everything works, which is good. I have a bad headlight module, but I have a spare that I'm going to swap in from another known good car. Fog lights are back up and running. So all in all, it's going really well, just a lot of cleanup, and that's what takes the most time. It's just a tedious shit. So, you know, extending wires and then taping them up and looming it and then zip tying it up, putting spade connectors and stuff so that they I don't have to keep cutting to take stuff in and out if I need to. A lot of plastic is broken, so I JB welded that back together. So that's all the stuff that keeps eating up a lot of the daylight here, but now it's really just tons of screws to put back. I got new screws for the front half of the dash pad. There were none in it, I just have the bottom ones, but the gauge pod holds it pretty steady, it doesn't vibrate, so I'm not too worried. And yeah, almost done. Moving on to the next couple of things that I'm going to be just replacing. I'm going to change the steering wheel. It's a couple years old. It's pretty beaten up. It was a cheap Amazon steering wheel, suede, which is no longer suede. I got this other Amazon cheap Momo knockoff, which actually says Momo on it, but whatever. It's a little bit bigger by a couple millimeters, which makes it easier to steer. This one was slightly smaller than stock, and this is an actual stock size 15 inch. That's a 14 inch. So I'm just gonna swap this out. Then I gotta drill new holes into the new steering wheel for the buttons. No big deal. And put that back together. Hopefully get the horn working. To peel off this horn button. I also replaced the mirror. I got this 12-inch frameless mirror. It's kind of got a blue tint to it, help anti-glare. It's just suction cup mount, so hopefully it lasts. The last one broke fairly easily, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, let's change this wheel. Hopefully get the horn working. It hasn't been working for quite some time. And then I need to take back off the cluster trim piece just so I can rewire these two switches. So the gain control button I use to turn on the meth controller off and on, and I use the LED as my way of knowing when it's pumping. So I actually have this wired where it turns it off and on, but the light's always on with ignition, so I need to change that. And then the trunk release button, the light inside of here doesn't come out to rest, and it doesn't dim, so I need to fix that. I can't remember what I did with that, so gotta solve that really quickly. I think I gotta do the same thing on the fog light button on this side as well, in terms of the back light for it, and then that's really it. Alright, dash is pretty much back together. I got to fix a vacuum lamp for the boost controller. I kind of moved it down more central that I can see it, and I can put this under panel back on. I got to recalibrate the overhead. The compass is way off. I'm going north and it says I'm going south. So I'm going to do a quick recalibrate on that. It says you got to drive around in a circle like 3 or 4 times and it should do it. I've tried that already, but it doesn't seem to work properly. So I hooked up the VSS wire, or unplugged the VSS wire. I'm going to try it again. And I also saw somewhere there's different ways to change between zones that you're supposed to be in. So I'm going to play around with that. Other than that, everything is bolted back together solid. I put a switch down here for the 2-step arm, so that will help a lot. So when I'm at the track, I can arm it. As soon as I let go of the clutch, turn it off, and it won't interrupt the IAT as I'm driving, which causes a lot of problems. So that's fixed, and yeah, we're gonna go for a cruise.